What's up, YouTube? Today we're gonna I'm just gonna do a basic video for beginners about how to clean a knife, like how to clean a folding knife. This is a Spyderco Shaman. It's the only knife I have that's on washers instead of bearings, but that's the only, real specific thing. Whenever you're taking apart a knife, if you're a beginner, you need to kind of think about what the locking mechanism is on the knife. So this is a Spyderco Shaman. It's a compression lock. It changes things, right? So here's a button lock knife. When you take this knife apart, the button, which is the locking mechanism, comes right out, and there's a little spring. You need to remember where that goes and make sure you don't lose that spring. Same with Demco 8020.5. It's a shark lock, right? So inside here, underneath this little lip, there's a spring that makes this move. So when you take this knife apart, this spring likes to just fly away and it's gone. So you have to think about what the locking mechanism is, because it might change things. This is a compression lock, very similar to a liner lock, just in a different orientation. I think that compression and liner and frame are probably the easiest to start with when you're getting into knives and you know you're going to be taking them apart and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's just a good note to have. So if you're going to take apart anything with any other parts other than like liners, scales, blade, bearings, or washers, if there's buttons involved, if there's springs involved, things like an access lock has a spring, or a coil, or whatever you want to call that thing. You just want to know that, so look specifically up how to take apart the specific knife that you're dealing with at the time. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to start taking this apart. So the first thing you need to do is find out what Torx you need for each screw. So this is a T10, and then the body screws are T8, and the pocket clip screws are T6. It's like pretty standard numbers. Oh, yeah, T10, T8, T6, yeah. A lot of knives might be like T8, all T8 maybe, or T8, T6, and then T6 as well for the pocket clip. But look, and well, you know what? I'm getting off topic now. So we're just gonna start with the pivot. Okay, then we're gonna switch to T8s for the body. Now, I've kind of screwed these screws up here, or the back spacer, I'm not sure. But I did something weird. That's all I remember from the last time I took this knife apart. Wow, that is very dirty. I don't know if you can see that super well, but there is a lot of crap in here. So I'm glad I picked this knife because the action was very sloppy, and this is clearly why. Okay, so when you take apart a compression lock, it's pretty much exactly the same as when you take apart a liner lock. So you have the scales, then you have the liner, then you have the blade and the washer, or the blade and the bearings. So we're just gonna get this completely apart, and then we're gonna clean all the pieces. There we go. Yeah, this is very dirty. Oh, okay, this has like a middle drum pivot. So you actually have to take the other screw out to even get it out. Oh, these washers are disgusting. Yeah, it's definitely good that I'm taking this apart and cleaning it. All right, so for sake of saving some time in the video, I'm not gonna take the backspacer off of here, and I'm gonna leave the backspacer, this scale, and this liner still attached. I'm gonna clean this and the washers and the drum, and I'm gonna put this part back together just for sake of time. Normally I would clean the inside of that, but I'm just gonna clean it from here. Okay, so technically that's the whole knife disassembled right now. Keep in mind there is a I'm forgetting the name for this part right now, but this can actually come out, so just keep that in mind and know where it goes. So to clean, you want to use some kind of alcohol or some kind of I don't know, cleaning thing, but not necessarily soap, because soap is annoying to like get it all off. And I mean, honestly, straight rubbing alcohol is the best thing in my opinion, but I only have this hand sanitizer, so that's what we're gonna use. So we'll clean the blade first. So you just, well, I mean, you can see what I'm doing. You just want to get some kind of cleaning stuff on like paper towel or a cloth or something, and really get like enough on there that it takes everything off. And you know, with a Spyderco, you want to get in the hole there, because like that's where your finger goes a lot of the time, and it just gets gross. There's all this jimping up top, so you want to kind of try to drag something through there to get all the dirt out of there. Right, the spine. The blade's not such a big deal, honestly. I mean, just for making this video, because it's completely exposed, so I can clean it after. So to me, it's more about the action right now. That's why I took this knife apart. Really wish that I brought Q-tips with me, but I did not. Well, that'll do. Alright, so there's still quite a bit of hand sanitizer on here, so I'm just switching out the cloth, trying to get it all off. You don't want to put the lubricant on with like rubbing alcohol or sanitizer or anything like that, because it'll break down the lubricant. Okay, so just clean it as best you can. We'll move on to the really bad liner. This is easy little hack here for super beginners. So I just blew a lot of that off. Even when the knife is completely assembled and like you're using it, you can always just blow right through the center of the knife and get a lot of stuff out. And more often than not, you can actually improve the action of a knife that has a bunch of dust in it or whatever, just by doing that. Oh, it's pretty gross. There is a lot of stuff in here, man. I've actually never seen this much junk in a knife, and that's probably why it even works at all, is because it's on washers. A lot of this, so washers are not better than bearings, but bearings can get a lot. The action can break down a lot faster. The more dirt gets into the bearings, it will really screw up the action. Whereas washers, it's there's no space for dirt to get in, so it takes a lot longer for the action to be messed up on something. That's why like a lot of outdoor folding knives are specifically on washers, because there's just a bunch of dust and wood chips and all sorts of crap that just can get in there and really jam up the action. Okay, so the most important part when you're cleaning your folding knives is whether it be washers or bearings. You want to be really careful with those things. So not quite as much when you're dealing with bearings, but when you're dealing with washers, these things are very thin, very polished little pieces of metal. They're very finely polished. What's the metal that this is? It's something bronze, I think. Yeah. Phosphor bronze. So it's very specific to be like be frictionless. You know what I mean? I wish I knew more about the metal they use for these and like why they choose the properties they do, but I don't know the answer to that. So that one is cleaned but not dried. Oh, these are very disgusting. Yeah, you also want to be really careful not to bend these. If you bend these, you can even like mess up your blade with these grinding around and they're all bent out of shape. So if you bend these, I would just suggest that you try to get your hands on some new ones to replace them if they're bent. I mean, you can flatten them out. You could put them in a book, stick them in a Bible, and close it. But I don't know. I wouldn't suggest putting bent washers in a knife. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So now you want to move on to lubricating. Well, actually, let's clean this barrel. Just give it a little wipe off. This thing is not a big deal, just as long as there's no obvious crud on it. Oh, right. Okay, so with this, one of the washers has to go down first. So you're going to want to put some lubricant around where the washer's going to sit. And then the barrel goes in. Well, I mean, ideally the barrel goes in. Huh. I knew I was gonna run into some stupid issue. Okay, yeah, this is a D-shaped pivot. So sometimes with certain kinds of pivots, one of them is not actually round, it's D-shaped, because one of them does not turn. And it is this one. So you have to look at where the flat side is, and then you need to line that up. If that makes sense to you. You can search like specifically just D-shaped pivot and watch a video specifically all about that. There we go. Okay. So then you're going to want to take one of the pivot screws, put it in, hope that this is still a T10, and it is. And so on the D side, the side that doesn't turn, you can make that really tight. Okay, so I'm just gonna lubricate this side. And just a note as well, where was I going with this? I don't remember. It can be very, very mind-numbing to concentrate on anything other than what you're actually doing when you're cleaning a knife, because you can just lose pieces and it's annoying. Anyway, so when you're putting the blade on, you'll figure out pretty fast that, oh, no, we need to add some lubricant here. Oh, I already it is obvious that it feels better. So you're gonna lube this side up and then put the pivot on. I'm gonna tell you right now, use less lube than I'm using. I don't care if it gets everywhere, because I just keep wiping it off, and then eventually the knife will stop leaking. It doesn't bother me, but it does bother some people, so you might be those people. Yeah, I know I use too much. I don't care. Okay, so that's all assembled, and now you want to put this side back on. Just remember it has the I don't remember the name, the locking something, or the, I don't know. Anyway, this goes into this hole, and you see the way the back of the blade here is shaped. This piece locks into here when the knife is deployed. So, whoops. Oh, of course, it's a compression lock, so the knife has to be opened for this piece to go on. There we go. Oh, I am a stupid person, so obviously you need to have the liner in the scale before you put it back on. I always make these silly mistakes when I'm disassembling stuff on camera. So that piece actually stayed in there. So we can just put this on from the other side because there's another hole here. Just goes on the same way I just put on the liner. Okay, now you want to pick it up from the bottom while holding it together. And the easiest way usually to do this is to put the other pivot in to hold it. I remember what my point was before. So if it's your first time ever taking a knife apart, keep in mind that a lot of screws could have Loctite on them. If you don't know what Loctite is, look it up. And be very careful. If a screw feels like you're going to strip it or you're going to strip your driver bit, don't keep going. There are tricks to getting really strong Loctite off, namely using heat. But you would need to look up those things specifically as well. So that's a really good tip. If you've never taken apart a knife and you really feel like you're forcing it when you're taking something apart, don't keep going. Look up how to take out Loctite screws. Just look that up. I'm saving you some really big headaches, trust me, by telling you that. So the body screws are back into the back spacer and nothing really feels stripped anymore, so it must have been the other side. And because I left the back part still assembled, which is kind of a cheap way out, but I didn't want this video to be like over half an hour, I saved a bit of time there. Oh, okay, so when you're done putting a knife back together, yeah, I could definitely feel junk all caught up in the washers before. But what I was gonna say was when you put a knife back together, if you're all disappointed when you go to deploy and dedeploy your knife, you're like, this doesn't feel smoother. You could have just put the pivot way too hard in. So you just need to loosen that up a bit. So I used to keep knives a little bit looser than this. But this knife has never been drop shut. Probably because it's on washers. Washers tend to not be as smooth in action. Well, they're smooth when they're clean, but they're not as, they don't tend to be drop shut blades. Anyway, that does feel a lot better. You'll find with bearings and things like that, when you clean those bearings, you will almost always find a huge difference in the action. Bearings are just generally smoother. That's why people like them. The only downside to them, in my opinion, is that they do get dirtier faster, and the action of your knife is suffering more often than it would be with this. Yeah, that is quite a bit smoother actually. It's just not drop shut. But that's the general ins and outs. Maybe I'll do another one of these videos in a while with another locking mechanism. Like maybe I'll do one on the Demco 8020.5 and show how to take apart the shark lock. You know, what else could I do? I could do Civivi Elementum and show you how to break that down. That's a liner lock, compression lock, shark lock. We could do the Kaiser Begleiter XL. That's a button lock. I hate doing button locks. Yeah, I mean, you could just leave in the comments which you would want to see. I could do a Spyderco Smock. That's a compression lock, but with a button added to it, right there. I could, oh, what's in my pocket? I could do a ZT0562. That's a frame lock. Yeah, just drop in the comments. I mean, if it's any of these, I can do that. And if it's any other number of knives that I have, then I can do that. But if I don't have it, I can't do it, obviously. Anyway, guys, just remember, don't force screws. If you feel like they're not coming off, they are probably Loctite. You can get a heat gun, depending on what your knife is made of. I mean, you can't heat gun G10, but if it's all titanium, if it's all metal, you can warm that up, and that usually breaks down Loctite. But yeah, don't force screws. Because if you strip the screw, then you're gonna have to drill that out, you know? Like, I mean, there's drilled bits for extracting screws as well, so look into that. Anyway, guys, so that's just a basic cleaning, specifically with washers. The next knife I do, it'll probably be bearings, and you'll get to see the difference, and any other locking mechanisms. So yeah, that's the general, that's how you clean a knife. Anyway, guys, have a good one.